Alumna Rhonda Wheatley is our presenter tonight. She will share with us practical ways to stay centered and calm during one of the most stressful times of the year, the holidays. She'll discuss healthy ways to confront the challenges of the holiday season, whether facing loneliness, the winter blues, argument of family members, or the temptation to overindulge in festive foods. Lastly, she'll outline meaningful ways to reflect on 2022 while laying the foundations for the new year. So thank you all again and welcome, Rhonda.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome. I want to first express my sincere gratitude to the DePaul Office of Alumni Relations for inviting me to give this workshop, for giving me space to do what I love to do while connecting with you fellow alumni. I hope that's a long list of things I'm planning to talk about. We have an hour. I don't know if Deidre and Harolyn will be gracious enough to let me go over a little bit if we have comments to address, but I hope we get everything in. So again, my name is Rhonda Wheatley. I went to DePaul for graduate school. I received a master's in writing, and I used to be a graduate assistant at the Loop Campus Writing Center, and it was one of the best jobs I ever had. So I've got fond memories of DePaul. But today, I'm mostly a professional artist. I make sculptures and installations that are about the mysteries of the universe, personal transformation and healing. And as part of my practice, I offer wellness workshops like the one I'm doing today. So I've facilitated similar self-care and wellness workshops with lots of Chicago-based institutions, as well as organizations across the country. And back in 2019, my artwork was included in an exhibition at the DePaul Art Museum, where I facilitated a manifesting workshop. And that is when I first connected with the Office of Alumni Relations and started doing workshops. And I believe this is my fourth workshop with you all. And I'm very, very happy to be back. So let's get started. Let's dive right in. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can handle some of the situations that we may find ourselves in this or any holiday season, with the understanding that everybody's different. No two people have the exact same issues, nor do they feel the same way about the issues we face. So I'm covering a wide range of suggestions and tips. And while some of the topics and suggestions might resonate with you, others may not be for you. So just take what resonates and leave the rest. The first topic I want to bring up is dealing with difficult family members and friends at holiday gatherings. And what do I mean by difficult? So some of us, when we visit with family over the holidays, we may have to deal with relatives and friends who make disparaging comments about our physical appearance. All over Twitter this week were comments about people having relatives say, "Oh, you've gained weight." That is one of the most common things. We don't want to hear that. I mean, come on. So there's disrespect that people might throw our way for our life choices and our careers or our job status. Some people make ugly jokes about us, our partners, or our children. Some people actually enjoy making folks uncomfortable with jokes or opinions that are disparaging towards others. And some people try to start arguments with us based on our differing political opinions. And some are just generally disrespectful or mentally or emotionally abusive. And often when we're facing disrespect or negativity coming from others, we might feel inclined to respond by arguing, fighting back, or defending ourselves, or trying to change the person's mind, and ultimately feeling bad or stressed or emotionally heated. It might ruin our whole day. But I'm going to say rarely do we ever feel good about what happens when we fight back, when we defend ourselves. It doesn't really turn out right. So here's some ways we might deal with that. Number one, I want to talk about how we can either avoid or minimize the drama and confrontation with these types of people and manage our stress levels, our emotions, and our reactions to them. And by the way, these tips can be used in any scenario at any time of year, not just holiday events. But to back up a little bit, and I want to note that if the disrespect you can routinely experience from someone or multiple people at regular gatherings of friends or family around the holidays is simply too much, ask yourself, can you opt out? Do you have to go? Can you simply not go? Can you say to yourself, I'm an adult, I can do what I want, and I'm choosing not to attend, and I'm choosing not to subject myself to this? That might be an option for some of us. But for those of us who feel like the offending person or persons are not important enough to make us miss an event or or if we feel the obligation we might feel obligated to attend the event, or we might feel that not going would cause more stress and drama than going. Here's what we might want to do when confronted with general disrespect or drama. We can aim to, 1, detach from that person's energy or avoid moving into their energy in the first place. 2, stay in our own energy. If you come in the door feeling joyful or feeling relaxed and chill, how can you stay in that energy when you feel pulled into their combative or negative energy? 3, take back your power or stay in your power. 4, bring them down to size, disempower them, their words and their voice. You can disempower them just in your own mind without even saying a word to them by deciding that their opinions don't matter. So what do these 4 points look like in action? How do you stay in your energy, stay in your power, and disempower disrespect and drama? 1, you can ignore the person when they try to engage. Just walk away. These kinds of people they're craving to get a reaction out of you. Don't give them what they want. Number 2, another option, depending on your personality, the kind of person you are, you can confront them directly. Now, I'm not recommending that you get to their level and say something insulting back to them, but if that's what you have to do, I can't say anything. But there are ways to confront directly in a brief way without feeling the need to be offensive or defensive or argumentative, or without even addressing the specifics of what they've said. You can simply say something like, "That's not cool," or "I'm not doing this with you today," or "I didn't come here for this," or "This is a nice family gathering and I came here to enjoy myself, not to entertain nonsense." You can come up with your own catchphrase, something that's authentic to you, and you can even smile or laugh to help you stay in your joyful, positive energy while disempowering the negative vibe. Laughing or smiling in response to something like that is it can be like taking the ammunition out of their weapon. Now, if they have another comeback and they don't accept your "I'm not doing this with you today," you can ignore that or shut the door in the conversation by saying, "Enjoy your evening," and walking away, refusing to acknowledge another word from them. Or there's this line I heard, if you all have watched the TV show on Disney Plus, the Star Wars show, The Mandalorian, that's the show with Baby Yoda or Grogu. There is a character in season 1 voiced by the actor Nick Nolte. And every time he says something, he would end his statements with the comment, "I have spoken." And I just love that. I have spoken. It might be a little silly to say that to someone, but a lot of times whatever they're saying to you is even more silly, asinine, and ridiculous. So one time I used that "I have spoken" line and it worked. So someone was trying to pull me into some drama. And after I made it clear that I was not interested, I shut it down by saying, "I have spoken." And it did feel a little bit silly, but so was their attempt to pull me into the drama. And after that, I proceeded to mind my own business. There was nothing else to say. There was nothing they could do to draw me in. "I have spoken" is final, and you got to stick to it. Don't let them pull you back in. So you can find your own phrase or statement that you can say to shut down drama, shut down people attempting to pull you in with conflict. So you might successfully make it out of the confrontation, avoiding the drama, without trying to change the person's mind, without trying to defend yourself. But what if you still feel like your energy is off center? What if that interaction still ruffled your feathers because what they did manage to say upset you? Well, here are a few things that you could do to bring yourself back to equilibrium if someone does upset you. And that's, again, this is even if you don't engage in the argument and you shut it down, you can still be thrown off. So here's what you can do. You can go off someplace away from the crowd, away from the group, maybe to a restroom or step outside if it's not 16 degrees below zero where you are, and take some deep breaths. Taking deep breaths is very clearing. And I'm going to talk about breathing a little bit later. You can also come up with a power statement or an affirmation for yourself and repeat it. And that may help you pull your energy back away from that person, bring your energy back to yourself and calm yourself. You might say something like, "I am detaching from this person's energy." And you might want to use that person's name in the statement, or you may avoid using their name to push them further away. But "I am detaching from this person's energy." And again, this is something you say to yourself. You might whisper it, you might just say it in your head, "I'm detaching from this person's energy," just to bring yourself back to center. Another statement might be, I'm reconnecting with my own power. I am bringing myself back to joy. I am bringing myself back to my own energy. I am grounded in my own power, peace, and joy. Now, I'm going to put those in the chat just in case anybody wants to use those, but you can write your own that resonate with you. And just a few more words about that before I put them in the chat. And also, when I put these in the chat, I'm going to check the chat to see if there are any questions. And if you do have questions or comments at this point, go ahead and put them there. I'm going to pause for a moment and check that out. But first, while you say those power statements to yourself, when you're bringing yourself back to equilibrium, you might imagine that offending family member that's trying to pull you into drama, imagine them getting physically smaller and smaller to represent the diminishing power, their diminishing power over you. Another thing you can do while you say these statements is feel like your energy is getting stronger. You might even see a light growing around yourself coming from within. Feel your energy getting more empowered, and maybe even imagine that you've plugged yourself into a metaphorical electrical power outlet to recharge yourself, to bring yourself back to center. And you might even smile before you start feeling better, just to help you move into a space of peace. So now I'm going to put those power statements in the chat. Just give me a moment, because these things take time. I'm copying and pasting, and you can take a moment to ask a question or make a comment or add something to what I've said if you like. As far as how you can come up with your power statements and affirmations, if you choose to write your own, you can take some time to come up with your own statements in advance, statements that resonate with you based on your past experiences. So there's that one uncle or that one family friend who always has something to say. And you could say, if that person says the same thing to me or something similar, this is the statement that I'm going to say just to protect myself from that person's energy. I am strong. I am love, like Marilyn put in the chat. And you can use it anytime, not just during the holidays, or you can feel free to use the ones that I put in the chat. You can edit them, add to them, or in the moment when something happens, you might not have an affirmation handy. It takes a habit to carry things like that with you or to have it ready. But if you can remember to just think to yourself, okay, just say positive, uplifting things to yourself, whatever you need to say to lift yourself back up. Okay, I'm feeling better. I'm calming down. You can talk your body down, talk your energy down. I'm feeling better. I'm calming down. Whatever you can grab at to make yourself feel better in that moment. And just a note on the imagination. I've mentioned a couple of times where you can imagine the person getting smaller or imagine you're plugging into an energy source. And some people think that since the imagination is not real, it has no power or influence. However, most of our emotional reactions to things are coming from the subconscious, and the subconscious is definitely affected and influenced by the things you envision and imagine. So if you imagine a disrespectful person shrinking, your subconscious starts to accept that, and it can begin to make a difference in how you feel and in how you react. Because again, our reactions are coming from the subconscious often. So show your subconscious some things that can help it move back into your power. Okay, so again, I'm going to check the chat again in a few moments, but I'm going to move on to our next topic so that we can try to get all these topics in before the end of our hour. Food at the holidays is the next topic. And I don't know everybody here. I can't see the names or anybody here, but I'm 100% sure that people are coming from all different types of places and backgrounds and experiences when it comes to their relationships with food, especially with holiday food. And I'm not here to judge anybody or tell anybody what you should do. I'm not one of those, you should this, you should that. So the real question is, what is best for you, and are you staying true to it? So some people may want to eat less at the holidays. Some people who are always counting calories may want to treat themselves to enjoy their food during the holidays. Others might look forward to the holiday food all year long and have no problem with eating as much as they want. And again, I'm not here to say that anyone is right or wrong, but there are some tips that I'm going to share. Take whatever resonates with you. So if you're making the choice to eat rich, indulgent foods, but you feel conflicted or you feel that you shouldn't, make the choice that you make with all your heart. If you choose to eat the food, don't sit there thinking negative thoughts as you indulge in the food. That only makes it worse. If you choose to eat a full plate of all the indulgent foods, enjoy that meal. Celebrate it. Celebrate the company around you. Feel gratitude for every bite and for the people who made it. And if you're the one who cooked it, direct that gratitude energy towards yourself. Feel pride in your cooking skills. Now, some people might have an all or nothing attitude. Either I'm going to avoid food altogether, or I'm going to have a heaping plate of everything with gravy on top, and I'm going back for seconds, thirds, and fourths. And I'm going to unbutton my top button. But maybe instead, you might choose moderation. Think about how you feel after on every holiday and ask yourself, how do I want to feel after I eat? And you might choose moderation. Maybe fewer items on the plate, maybe smaller portions. It's easier said than done, but think about how you want to feel. And if you're someone who makes promises to themselves and then doesn't keep them, please refer back to the first tip. If you are breaking a promise to yourself at the holidays, forgive yourself, because feeling bad only makes it worse. And if you choose to enjoy every morsel of food and find a way to make it up to yourself later. And then lastly, there is mindful eating. And I recommend this for everyone, no matter what you're choosing. But so whether you'll be eating less than usual and you don't want to feel deprived, or if you usually feel conflicted, you can try eating again with gratitude towards the cook. And also, sometimes when we get this food that we only have once a year, we tend to eat a little bit fast. Some of us, we scarf the food down really fast, and before we've gotten warm in our seat, we're ready for our second plate. Some of us. And I know this is really hard when the food is delicious, and again, it's once a year. But if we can eat slowly, more mindfully, chewing thoroughly, breathing in between bites, and savoring every bite with appreciation for the flavors, I think savoring is so important. And sometimes when you eat more mindfully and take your time and enjoy, you may end up wanting less food and feeling better, especially when you're thinking positive thoughts about how much you're enjoying the food as opposed to how bad you are for eating it. So what I'm basically overall encouraging is positive energy for what you choose to do. And if you feel like you're breaking a promise to yourself or you intended to do something different, find a way to make it up to yourself later. You could maybe do some extra workouts or do a juicing fast after or before, something like that, whatever makes sense to you. It's really hard to address food with a diversity of people, but my biggest recommendation is just mindfulness, gratitude for the food, savoring every bite. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next topic, but if you have a comment, I don't see anything in the chat at the moment, but I want to move on to dealing with stress. That's a big one, and this can happen all year round, but we're going to talk about it right now. So some people might be dealing with extra stress around the holidays because we're the ones who do everything, running around managing a whole family. You're doing all the cooking and the shopping for the food and the holiday gift shopping. Or maybe you're dealing with busy end of the year schedules at work, trying to tie up loose ends before the year ends, or juggling gift buying and feeling stressed out about your budget or stressed out about relationships. Some of us are worried about all the things we didn't accomplish in 2022 and fearful about yet another year approaching before we got to do everything. Any number of things can make this time of year busier and more stressful than other times. My tips and suggestions here might not solve the problems that are causing the stress, but they can help you release tension and reduce the damaging effects of mental stress on the body. And maybe if you can regain some of the calmness, you might gain some clarity as well that can help you come up with solutions to make things easier. So the things that are causing the stress, you might gain the clarity to help clear some of that stress, clear some of the problems and the worries. So one of the first things you might do when feeling stressed is ground yourself. Now, I know a lot of people might not know what grounding means. If you do, just bear with me so I explain in case there are people who do not know. So what does grounding mean? A lot of the times when we're stressing out, all of our energy is focused in our headspace. And grounding redistributes our energy throughout the body, and it relieves a lot of the pressure we may be putting on ourselves. Grounding brings us back into the rest of the body. And it's another practice that can also help you bring yourself back to center. If we go back to the first topic, if we've had an unpleasant confrontation at a family gathering, after you walk away and need to reset, you can combine grounding with the deep breathing that you do. So I just want to take a moment and do something a little experiential. Of course, participate at your level of comfort. If you just want to sit back and see what this is before you try it, go ahead and do so. Maybe you can try it later. Or if you already know how to do it, follow along with me. So I'm going to guide you through a grounding process just so you can see what it's like. And I will note that when I did these workshops in person, in fact, the first alumni relations workshop that I did with DePaul, I did this demo in person. It was in 2019. And basically, I'm someone who's often ungrounded. And sometimes people who are ungrounded might be a little clumsy or just talking too much, talking too fast. That's me to a T. And so I'm a great person to do a demonstration. So I would stand up in the workshop and ask for a volunteer to come up and just while I'm ungrounded, have them tap me on the shoulder gently. And I would move, like I would almost, fall over a little bit with a gentle tap. And the person who does the volunteer could feel how easy it was to make me move. And after that, I would take a moment to bring my energy downward. I would ground myself. And again, this is using the imagination. And this is a great example of how imagining something can have an effect on the physical body. So after I would ground myself, I would ask my volunteer to tap my shoulder again. And I didn't move as much. And everybody in the group could see that I didn't move as much. And the person who pushed me could feel a difference in how solid I was. So it's like I was more firmly tethered to the earth. So we're not in person. I don't have a volunteer to do this for me, but maybe you'll feel a physical difference when we try this. So if you want to follow along, just go along with me. So first, we're going to start bringing our attention downward, starting from our heads, moving down to our neck and shoulders. And this is just attention, paying attention. Often when we're stressed out, we're in our head. We forget we have a body, some of us. So relax yourself as you go, bringing your attention to your arms, your torso, and just feel that like you have energy that's moving down as your attention moves down. Attention and energy moving down your torso, down your legs, the lower part of your body, and feel yourself getting heavier. You might automatically, without trying, feel yourself getting heavier as you place your attention on these lower parts of your body. Then begin imagining that your energy is moving downward, or maybe the stress energy. If you imagine chaos or what chaos might look like in your imagination, imagine that moving down from the head down to other parts of the body. And oftentimes stress, it takes the form of tension in the shoulders. So it's nice to let relaxation energy move down. And as you see that energy or feel that energy moving downward, it moves down to the floor. And you can even see it moving. It's like you're letting it leave you. That energy goes down through the floor, through all the floors beneath you, down to the ground, into the earth, far, far down deep into the earth. And you may even realize that like a tree, you have roots growing from your ankles and feet that make you feel safely tethered to the earth. Now, for those of you who followed along, do you feel a physical change when you did that grounding exercise? Because you're essentially moving any excess energy in the headspace. And when you're stressed, you could say you're moving chaos, stress energy downward, and you're grounding it out. You are moving energy, sending the stress energy into the earth, which doesn't hurt the earth, by the way. So notice how you feel. Okay, and then I'm going to move on to the third de-stressing item. So remember when I mentioned the deep breathing exercise that you can do as a way to bring yourself back to equilibrium after dealing with a disrespectful person? Well, breathing exercises are a great way to de-stress and recenter in general in any situation. And I want to take a moment to talk about breathing and then do a little breathing exercise. So when you're feeling stressed, when you have a lot on your mind, you're very busy, you might sometimes catch yourself not breathing. I mean, I can't see a show of hands, but like how many of us have ever noticed, wow, I'm kind of holding my breath. A lot of us unconsciously hold our breath, especially when we're stressed. I catch myself doing it all the time when I'm overthinking, when I'm in the midst of doing something. And if we're not holding our breath, many of us, we're breathing shallow. We're taking very small, short breaths at the top of our chest. But there are several things that happen when we deepen our breathing, when we breathe consciously, placing our direct attention on our breathing. First, we're flooding our bodies with oxygen, which is energizing and clarifying. Second, we become more conscious of our bodies instead of being so focused in our head space and our mental space, which is, again, where most of the energy sits when we're stressed, unless we're talking about tension that follows in other parts of the body. We start to become more calm when we start to focus on our breathing. We become less worried, less focused on the negative. And when we're breathing deeply, we're so busy paying attention to our breath that we're not able to hold our focus on worries anymore. We're basically resetting ourselves. So if we do a quick breathing exercise, I want to just mention how to breathe correctly, because a lot of people forget. Babies remember how to breathe correctly. If you watch a baby breathe, you see their belly poke out. And a lot of people, once they become kids, teenagers, adults, if you say take a deep breath, the first thing you see is their chest get big and they might push their belly in. So the belly in, chest out. That's not the correct way to breathe. Our lung capacity is not all at the top. Our lung capacity goes down further. Our lungs are bigger than we might think. So when we take a breath, our belly should go out. Let that air go all the way into the bottom of the belly, and then fill that bottom space up. Your belly should poke out, then fill up the chest. So when we start by filling up the chest, we're missing out on the whole lower portion of the abdominal area that could fill up with air. So we correctly breathe by breathing all the way into the full capacity of our lungs. First, filling up the belly area, the lower lungs, then the top. And then we're going to try this out by doing 4 deep breaths in, and then holding, and then releasing with a long exhale. And as you exhale, you can feel yourself getting more and more calm, hopefully. So let's try it. I'm going to just have you follow along if you want, or you can try it later if you like. So take a deep, deep breath in. Hold for a second, and then let out a long exhale. You feel like you're deflating, it feels relaxing. Try another one. Deep breath in. And then hold, and then release. A third deep breath in. Hold, and then exhale. Now, if you like that, if you feel how good that feels, there are lots of breathing exercises you might look up on YouTube. There are breathing exercises where you hold your exhale double the time of the inhale. There are all kinds of different breathing exercises. And wow, I even feel refreshed just now from doing that. I need to do more breathing exercises myself. So along with that, oftentimes meditation and breathing go together. So I want to recommend meditation as a form of de-stressing and relaxing. And some people are really confused about or find meditation to be a mystery. And there's lots of different ways to meditate. Like washing dishes can be a meditation depending on how mindfully you do it. Standing in line at the grocery store, I take a moment to be a little bit meditative. And then they're sitting there in complete silence. And some people think they're failing to meditate because they keep thinking things. Well, there are so many different ways to meditate. Say one of those power statements that we talked about earlier, you might take one of those, get really relaxed, ground yourself. Grounding is often a first step in meditating. Do your deep breathing, then get into relaxed breathing, and just focus on one statement, like a mantra. It could be one of your affirmations, a positive affirmation, hopefully. And then in addition to meditation, which I recommend researching different ways, also YouTube and Spotify, different places, you can find guided meditations where someone walks you through and you just follow along. Those are wonderful. You can use headphones with them and you really get lost in this peacefulness and relaxation. It's a great way to reset yourself, but it takes time. Some of those meditations might be 10, 15, 20 minutes, some are an hour. But what you can do for a quick reset, deep breathing is great to quickly get you back to center. And then, of course, if you have a little more time, other ways to de-stress, I'm sure you all have heard of, but a lot of us don't do the things that we know to do. You can take a long herbal bath using bath salts. You can use essential oils, get an oil diffuser, and all natural, of course, so you're not exposing yourself to anything toxic. And if you get an essential oil, a bottle of it, you can go look at samples and see which ones make you feel good. But some essential oils are energizing and uplifting, and some are relaxing. Lavender is one of the most relaxing essential oils. So you could use it in your bath. You can get an essential oil roller and roll it on your pressure points. And then one of those oil diffusers where you put the oil in something and the steam comes out, that might be nice and relaxing. Exercising, whether cardio or light movement, dancing, just taking a walk, getting any kind of movement in, whether it's yoga, whatever you are physically capable of doing can help you relax and get back in the body and let go of excess unproductive energy, which when stuck in, you can cause more stress. Next, there are some relaxing teas, and I actually have a number of these here to show you. There's yogi tea, which you might have seen in the grocery store. This is relaxed mind and it supports tranquility. Then I have Organic Cup of Calm by Traditional Medicinals, and this one is lavender mint. And you can get these at health food stores. Whole Foods might have these as well. And then if it's later in the day and you can't get your mind to rest, there's bedtime tea. It's soothing and spicy sweet. And some of these have a lot of herbs. So if you're on any kind of medication, you might want to check with a medical professional or check for contraindications with whatever you're taking. And then this one is pretty powerful. It's kava. And there's teas. Kava also comes in a tincture, but it's like a muscle relaxant. So it helps you physically relax. But I would caution against taking this if you have any issues with the liver, especially the stronger tincture, because it can be strong in the liver and you're not supposed to take this over the long term. So I tend to use kava when I'm really super stressed and tense, when I'm feeling muscle tension, and it does help. But I don't use it very often because I don't want to put any taxing on my liver. So there's that. And I'm going to take a pause for a moment to check the chat and just see what's there. And if anyone else wants to add anything to the chat. Oh, so someone said they love that one. I'm not sure which one it is that you were talking about. Was it the meditation? What's that? Anne, can you clarify which you love? Is it the one of the teas? I would love to know what it is that Anne loves. So tell me when you get a chance, Anne. And if anyone else has a comment, I'm going to be looking at the chat. Oh, yes, one of the teas. Thank you so much. I'm glad that other people like these teas. They are very relaxing and they do work. Those herbs are real. Some people believe that a lot of that stuff is snake oil, but the stuff is real. Okay. So another important way to deal with stress is to start a journaling practice. And I am very biased because, like I said, I went to DePaul and I studied writing. So I'm a writer. I started writing journals when I was in 4th grade. I stapled together a bunch of notebook papers. And also the very first workshops I started to facilitate as part of my art practice were journaling workshops. So I'm very biased. And journaling has solved so many problems for me. I use it for almost any challenge, anything. I also use it to celebrate when something good happens. But when it comes to stress, journaling is a way of moving energy, just like grounding. All of these things move energy. And that's what happens. A lot of energy gets pent up and it's too much and you need to release it. So I use the journal as a place to vent. And sometimes I can feel the energy moving and I feel myself calming down just by getting things out of my system. So other times a journal can be used as a problem solving tool. So instead of having stressful thoughts and worries that just keep circling around and around in our heads with no resolution, maybe when you outline your thoughts and start to make progress, you realize, oh, there are solutions I haven't thought about. And sometimes journaling I don't know what it is about it, but when you get in the zone of writing, you make progress, you move forward, as opposed to just sitting with the thoughts that are floating around in our heads. And in order to have a nice journaling practice, you don't have to have a special leather-bound book or a cute little diary with a lock on it. You can journal in a dollar store notebook with a binder full of loose leaf, or on a document on your computer, or even using a voice recorder. Some people do not like the written word, and I respect that. You can use a voice recorder to get your thoughts out, use a dictation function in Microsoft Word if you want to actually have the words documented, but you're speaking it. You can also do a video journal. And personally, I find that writing, I use digital typing or using dictation on a computer is great because it's easy to look back and see old things. Now, I might not want to reread the things when I vent. Sometimes when we vent, it's a little toxic, and we might want to rip that up or write it somewhere and let it go. And then later the next day, when we have more clarity, we might write something down if we're going through something. So there are things that we might not want to reread, but it depends on what's going on in my day. If I problem solve, it's good to keep that to look back at, because I might get an idea 2-3 years later based on a problem I solved several years ago. So that is the last example. These aren't the only examples. So if someone else can think of something that you do to de-stress, I mean, dancing, I think I put dancing in there, but listening to music, singing, those kinds of things that move energy. Grounding yourself, it doesn't always have to be that meditative grounding. Sometimes people ground themselves by kneading dough or clay, getting something with your hands. It moves energy and it lets stress move out of your body. So yes, if there are some wise ideas and comments and other wisdom about stress and de-stressing, don't hesitate to add it to the comments. So I'm going to take a moment just to sip my tea because I have relaxing tea. I'm drinking holy basil. Okay. So I'm going to move on to our next topic, which is loneliness and the winter blues. And again, I want to remind you, this is just an hour and I don't have the answer to everything. Even if I had all day, I wouldn't have all the answers. So that's another reason why if someone has something to add, it's nice to add that to the chat. But just in terms of loneliness, the holidays could be a really rough time for people who've lost loved ones, or for people who are too far away from their loved ones and don't have a way to get there, or for people who just don't feel good about celebrating holidays for whatever reason. And my heart goes out to anyone who's dealing with that. I know what it feels like to lose someone who's been there your whole life. It is tough. So while this time of year can be a sad time for some people, and honestly, some people may prefer to be alone, and loneliness is different from being alone, as some people may want to enjoy meaningful solitude. And it's okay to feel sad too. A lot of people tend to think, oh, you're sad, that's really awful, that's bad. But life has ups and downs, and being sad is part of life. And sometimes letting yourself feel your emotions and feel the sadness and letting yourself cry, especially, it is cleansing. That's how you get to the next level of feeling better. When we avoid those things, what happens? The energy gets pent up and it never gets released. So being sad might be some people's way of being reflective. As long as a person's not spiraling and staying within a place of despair, that's when it can get really rough. But being sad temporarily might be a person's way of healing and working through feelings. Even if there are tears, that's okay. Crying is a healing release. But what if you're alone and the holidays are making you feel more lonely than usual? What are some ways that you can lift your spirits? So this first tip, someone mentioned making new traditions when having lost a parent or a loved one is a real chore. Yes, it really is. When my father passed away, I wasn't going to mention my dad today, but because you brought that up, I just want to say that my mom and sister and I decided, you know what, on Christmas, we're going to do something we'd never done before. Back in 2010, we said, we're going to go to the movies as a family. And that really made me feel better, deciding to do something different so that we weren't sitting in the same places, seeing the empty place where he was. We decided to make a new tradition. And I know it can be a heavy thing, but it really can make a difference in how you celebrate the holidays. So I'm going to just check and see if there are any other comments above that. Okay, I need to put these other glasses on, so excuse me for a moment. So local Black-owned business owner Sentimental Teas, her spirit blend will help you sleep like a baby. Okay, thank you for that recommendation. Yeah, for the movie, that was a tradition. Okay, amazing. All right, thank you so much for the comments. And that was Erica. Appreciate that. And also, I don't know if I said hello to anybody who might be watching the replay, but I just want to acknowledge anyone who's watching the replay. Hello to you. So back to our discussion. So this first tip may not be for everyone, but ask yourself, is if you are one of the people who might be alone, or if you know somebody who might be alone, this might be a suggestion that could work for some people, but I recognize it really isn't for everybody. But maybe there's someone else. Ask yourself, is there someone else I know who is also alone? Maybe someone else whose family's out of state who I can invite over. And maybe I can have a low-key little small gathering, whether it's for a Christmas celebration or New Year's Eve. That might be the right move for some people, but some of us might be a little shy about asking. So that's something that could work for some people to alleviate the loneliness. Sometimes the cure for loneliness is to focus on someone else through service. So another tip would be to volunteer, helping other people in need. That could be a great way to feel like you're a part of something, and not only to feel it, but to really be a part of something. So you're helping other people, you have a chance to connect with fellow volunteers, maybe make a new friend. And if you haven't heard of it, there is a Chicago-based organization that connects individuals with volunteer opportunities. So some of you may have heard of it. I'm going to put it in the chat. Their website, it's called Chicago Cares, and their site is chicagocares.org. And I volunteered with them before. It was a number of years ago, but I found this organization to be quite wonderful. They do have holiday volunteer opportunities listed on their website, but I believe sometimes those could fill up. So if you're interested, check those out soon. Chicago Cares has volunteer opportunities all year round, by the way. So, and then if volunteering isn't for you right now, and Christmas and or New Year's Eve are going to be solo holidays, how can you make those days special? Well, what if you made it a day where you focus on yourself in a positive and fun way and just treat it yourself? You could spend a day or a few days surrounding the holidays doing something festive. If you like holidays, you can create your own festive holiday. If you want to avoid the holidays because they might bring up some memories that aren't pleasant, you could maybe focus around music and movies and fun things, but make it anything, the furthest thing from Christmas. Maybe make a summer playlist of music that's as far away from Christmas as possible, a non-holiday movie playlist, and be very intentional about it, whether the movies are your comfort movies that you've seen 100 times or new movies that you've been putting off watching. You can get some non-holiday snacks, get some scented candles, comfy, cozy pajamas, and pretend it's some other time of the year and just do you that day. You could also do some de-stressing self-care activities like taking a lavender bath, like we mentioned earlier, or doing a whole at-home spa day. And if you have the budget, try a spa day at an actual spa that might be open on the holidays. So you feel like you're treating yourself, you're getting something out of it. If you're going to be alone, that's one way to make it not lonely, where you are treating yourself. So a quick note on the winter blues, and some people refer to it as sad seasonal affective disorder. We are getting far less sunlight at this time of year because of daylight savings, and it does have an impact on some people. I don't have all the answers here because everybody's different, but one thing you can do is, and this is, I have a hard time saying this because I can't even do it myself, but try to get up a little earlier so you're getting as much sunlight as possible during the day. I'd rather stay up till 5 a.m. than get up at 5 a.m. So that's where I am. But on days when it's really bright out, try to spend a few extra minutes outside. If you're working on site, on location at a job, and if you're someone who tends to eat lunch at your desk, try to get outdoors instead. So you're not only getting some sun, but you're also getting some movement and also getting away from the office, which is great for breaking up the monotony of your day. And just getting away from your desk or your workstation is a great idea anyway, but getting more sunlight in the winter is a great idea. The other thing that's pretty well known and common is taking vitamin D. So a lot of people are missing out on the vitamin D and also a multivitamin. I have noticed people who, I had a friend once a long time ago who was feeling really down and sad. She just wasn't herself. And I said, are you taking a multivitamin? And she said no. And she started taking one. And then we had the weekend. And when she came back on Monday, that multivitamin had already started making a difference for her. She couldn't get the smile off of her face. So that might not be the answer for everyone, but this was the answer for my friend. So sometimes not getting the right nutrients, not getting enough vitamin D, magnesium, those kinds of things can affect our mood. And then when it comes to vitamin D, make sure you get vitamin D3. That's the form of vitamin D that we need. So I'm going to check the chat again. If you have any questions, I'm going to pause before moving into the very last section. It looks like I'm making good time and fitting everything in, but looks like there are no things in the chat. But I'm going to sip some tea in case someone wants to say something. I'm just going to give you a moment to make a comment, add a suggestion, and thank you again, everyone who has made suggestions or comments. Okay, so moving into the last topic, which is reflecting on 2022 while setting the stage for 2023. So I do a lot of reflecting all the time. I'm reflecting all year, but there's something about being at the end of the year and looking at how far you've come that's amazing. And sometimes you can sit and just remember, but sometimes you might have a journal and you can actually look back and say, wow, I forgot that I had that idea and I actually accomplished. Oh, I did more than I thought. Some of us do more than we think, and it's easy for people to forget how much they're actually accomplishing, which is why journals are great because they remind us. So if you do choose to do any reflecting on your year at the end of 2022, I would definitely encourage you to do it with compassion and grace and celebrating your achievements and wins. And if you've experienced any disappointments, I recommend looking back without judging yourself. There's too much of that. Most of the people I work with across the board in my life, a lot of folks are too hard on themselves and could use more compassion. So I feel very comfortable encouraging everyone to show themselves more grace, more compassion, celebrating their achievements, because so many people, when they achieve something big, they're already off to the next thing. They don't even take a moment to exhale and breathe and debrief and say, wow, look what I did that. And that's okay. It doesn't mean a person's being too proud or full of themselves. Too many of us don't look back and say, well, that's really cool. I did that. I accomplished something. And often when we move on to that next thing, we're doing so because we don't feel good enough. We feel like I'm only as good as my last accomplishment, so we don't want to make that last accomplishment too far behind us. So we're running off to the next thing so we can constantly feel like we're worthy and good enough. And I'm seeing someone put in the comments, yes, thank you. Yes, we are so hard on ourselves. Thank you for saying that. Then the other thing is when we look back at our past, at what we've dealt with, if there's something that we didn't do well enough or something I don't even like to use the word fail, because fail is focusing on the negative. If we failed at something, it means we tried to do it and we could have sat back and not tried, but there's always a lesson. Every so-called failure is a school, it's an education. So instead of dwelling on the losses, I like to dwell on the lessons. So when you learn something, it is a gain. It's not so much of a loss. So something we can do with our reflections of the past year is use them to plan 2023. So you can ask yourself, if you like to journal, a journaling prompt might be, what will you do differently in 2023? How can you use what you learned in 2022 to make 2023 even better? So these two questions are great journaling prompts. Maybe some of us have accomplished more than we thought we could in less time. Maybe others of us didn't accomplish what we set out to do, but we found a whole new path when we ventured out on our original goals. That needs to be acknowledged. If we end up taking a new path and we didn't accomplish what we originally wanted to, acknowledge and recognize and validate that new path that may be better. And if you never took that first step, you never would have found that new path. And maybe some of us put enough on our 2022 plates to stretch into 2023. And that's a very positive way of saying, I didn't accomplish everything in 2022, but I didn't meet all of my goals. I didn't get everything done. But a positive way to look at it is I planned enough for 2022 to stretch into next year. And I have a couple of activities for the last few minutes, not that we're going to do now, but that you can think about for later. And these you might consider for setting the stage in 2023. So reaching back into our last topic, loneliness at the holidays, this could be a really nice self-reflection activity to do if you're by yourself in lieu of attending holiday gatherings. And it can enable you to spend your alone time more meaningfully by using a holiday like New Year's Eve to focus on how you're going to make the best of the year ahead. So I call this first activity taking the L's. And if you've heard that term, taking the L, people mean taking the loss, but I mean taking the lessons. So for this activity, if you're going to list out everything about this past year and maybe things that extended to other years before, but anything you judged yourself for, anything you criticized yourself for, any negative beliefs and thoughts or self-limiting beliefs that you do not want to take into 2023, make a list of them. Make a list of those thoughts and beliefs, the negative, self-limiting, self-critical, naysaying, imposter syndrome, all of those criticisms. And for every single one of those criticisms, negative thoughts, or limiting beliefs that have held you, that may have held you back this year or in the past, you might have thought these things about yourself as a result of how things transpired or etc. But you're going to take each one of those thoughts and beliefs and flip them. So that's how you use this year to build on or to prepare for, lay the foundation for next year. So for instance, if something made you feel like you weren't enough, it could have been something that happened last year, but it could have stemmed from something that happened in kindergarten. It could have been a belief that was drilled into you and reinforced over the years. But this idea of not being good enough, a lot of people experience that. You may hear it repeatedly in your own head because after someone else said things or did things to you that made you feel that way, it became part of your own inner voice. So take that belief and flip it, but write it in a positive way. Don't use negatives like the words don't and not. When you write an affirmation, you want to avoid those words. And you want to write your phrases in the present tense. Don't put them in the future because you want to embody that energy now. And you can also, for each belief, each negative thought or self-limiting belief, you can actually make multiple affirmations or positive statements with each single negative statement on your list. For instance, I don't know if you all hear my telephone. So sorry that it's ringing. It's like nobody calls me until I'm doing something important. So sorry about that. But for instance, the statement, I am not enough becomes, I am enough. And then you can change it. You can write several more. You can keep going. I am enough. I am more than enough. I have always been enough. And notice how these are all in the present and there are no negatives. Another example is, I am not capable. So people think they're not capable because of something that happened. It could have happened years ago. It could have happened last year, this year. So that negative statement becomes, I am capable. I am highly capable. I am constantly growing in my capabilities. I have always been capable. So again, you can create multiple positive phrases from one negative statement. Now, what do you do with these positive statements once you have them? So there are lots of little things you can do. And I have some examples. You can get some note cards, blank note cards. One side might have lines, the other side blank. And you can make yourself some flashcards with these statements on them. I made a couple of samples. You are capable. Everybody's an artist, so you can decorate those. And then there's I am enough, just using the side without the lines. You can use some markers, and then you can just have a stack of them, and you can go through them like flashcards, and you can read them aloud or place them around your living space where you'll see them frequently, unless you live with other people and you want to keep them private. You can also use Post-it notes, and you can put them all over the place, like your mirror. You can create a whole wall of these cards, or Post-it note wall, putting those statements. You can put them in and on your notebooks. You can take a photo of one or create a digital graphic and make it your cell phone lock screen. And if you're doing a vision board for January, for the new year, you can also put positive affirmations on your vision board. And I know that there are tons of affirmations out there. You can buy decks of affirmations. Hay House Publishing Company founder Louise Hay has different card decks. You know how they have Oracle and Tarot card decks? Well, they have card decks that are focused all around affirmations, and you can get those. But the cool thing about going through your own personal negative beliefs, etc., is that you are taking you're writing affirmations that are crafted specifically for you, your issues, your needs. So that's the good thing about writing them yourself. So that, again, you can add them to your vision board if you want to do something like that. You can also create an audio recording of your voice and read all your positive statements and listen to it so that it's sinking into your brain. And I want you to note that one of my cards says, I am enough, and one of them says, you are capable. I want you to notice, like, if you're doing your affirmations, there's a difference between saying I am capable and saying you are capable. So if I'm looking at this on the wall and it says I am capable, when it's coming directly, when it's from outside of me coming to me, it makes more sense to see you are capable. So when someone's standing outside of me, they wouldn't, if they say I am capable, if that comes out of their mouth, I'm thinking they're talking about themselves. If I hear recording and it says I am, it's less powerful than if they're saying you are. But if I'm saying it to myself in my own head with my own voice right now in the moment, like I am highly capable, that makes sense. But it makes more sense to me to hear you are highly capable as though someone's talking to me. And it might be more effective, but try and see if you're interested in trying this out. See how different the I versus the you feels in different scenarios, whether it's the recording where I choose to use the second voice you versus when I'm saying it aloud to myself and I say I. So a side note before we close out, for anyone who does not believe that affirmations are effective, please look into neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to change itself, to rewire itself. So negative self-criticisms have been piling up in our minds over the years as a result of wiring after repeatedly hearing or saying negative things about ourselves. Some people who say that affirmations don't work, they think, oh, I'm supposed to read this affirmation and instantly I'm supposed to feel good enough. But it took a lot of repetition and reinforcement for that negative belief to seep in and become rooted in our brains. It's going to take repetition for us to root it out. So that's why affirmations might not work instantly. They might start to make a difference for some people, but repeating, repetition is the secret to really making affirmations work. And you can root out and reverse these negative beliefs by repeatedly exposing your brain to the positive affirmations that you write, or if you get a deck of cards or go online and look up affirmations for something. So if there's an issue you have and you don't know how to write your own affirmations, or you want to find something that already exists out there, you can always get on Google and look, and there are websites. There are people who've already written lots of affirmations that might be helpful to you. So also, in addition to flipping some of the negative self-talk from 2022 into positive statements, you might also write out your goals for 2023. And I recommend writing out your 2023 goals after you flip last year's limiting and critical beliefs into positive statements. Why is that? Because after you take last year's negative critical self-judgments and you flip them, you have built yourself a positive foundation of compassionate thinking, and as opposed to self-judgment. So you want to build upon the positive. So how different might 2023 be when you're planning your goals, whether personal or professional, if you have a foundation of positive beliefs? And also keep in mind where you might need to give yourself more grace and space. So perhaps in 2022, some of us had too many goals on our plate and underestimated how much rest and breathing room we might need. Never underestimate your need for rest. We can also take that as a lesson into 2023, give ourselves less to accomplish. Conversely, if you got much more done, or if you were a little bored, maybe you need to set bigger, more challenging goals. If our goals aren't big enough, we're often bored. So maybe we can accomplish more than we thought in 2023. It's about looking at how this year and previous years went, considering how you can build upon and flip the negatives into a positive to work for you, but again, doing so with compassion and without self-judgment, and giving yourself grace. So that is it. It is 7:01, and I just wanted to offer, if you would like to keep in touch with me, we can connect on Instagram. I'm going to put my Instagram handle in the chat. I hope to continue doing workshops with the DePaul Office of Alumni Relations because I enjoy it so much, but I'm also doing workshops throughout the year, and I'll be announcing them on Instagram. I'm a facilitator with 3 Walls Culture of Care workshop series. And I mentioned vision boards a minute ago, and in January, I'm offering a workshop called Vision Boards and Beyond. So if you want to stay in touch, check me out on Instagram, which I just put in the chat. And I do follow people back, so unless people have a crypto account or some scammy account. So just follow and maybe drop me a line if you want to say, hey, I was at the DePaul workshop, since I can't see any of my fellow alumni. And last thing, I want to thank you again for being here this evening. I hope everyone received something from this workshop. And I want to wish you all a wonderful December and wonderful New Year. Thank you so much. And thank you to, I'm looking in the chat, for everybody who put something in the chat, including Anne. Thank you for that last comment about first attempt at learning is what fail means. Thank you so much.
I really like that one. I was going to say that's in the chat, and I really like that one. Rhonda, thank you so much for hosting today. And this was such an amazing topic. I learned a lot. Getting grounded. Like I said, this is great. Thank you to everyone who joined us this evening.
I can't even believe I fit it all into an hour. You all don't know how.
Listen, you covered a lot, and it was very informative.
Yeah, I'm baffled as to how I collapsed time. I'm into
it was good, and you did it exactly at 7 o'clock, so that was amazing. Again, thank you for always bringing us such wonderful webinars. I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening, and happy holidays if I don't see you before then.
Yes, thanks to everybody who put thank you in the chat. You are welcome. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much.